The stars looked peaceful from the outside. Ships moved slowly between planets, their silver bodies glowing under the light of twin suns. But peace was only a mask. Inside the great halls of the Galactic Council, whispers of fear were spreading again. The fear had one name: humans. They had been quiet for almost 50 years. No wars, no battles, no armies. The Council had forbidden them from fighting after the Terran Wars ended. On paper, it looked like a wise decision. Humans were dangerous, unpredictable, and clever in ways no other race could understand. But now, something was happening again. High above the blue planet Earth, an old satellite caught a strange signal. It was a coded message, ancient, human, and military. Within seconds, the Galactic Communication Network detected it. The message was short: Project Lazarus, Phase 1 activated. At that same moment, deep under the frozen mountains of Norway, an old bunker came alive. Lights flickered, machines began to hum, and a digital voice said, "Reactivation complete. Awaiting command authorization." No one outside Earth knew who had sent the signal. No one on Earth was supposed to be able to send it. Humans were not allowed to create or command weapons anymore. It was part of the Galactic Peace Treaty they had signed after their final war. On the Council's capital world of Orion Prime, panic began to rise. Representatives of 100 alien species gathered in the Grand Hall. Their glowing eyes and shifting colors filled the chamber. The High Speaker, a tall being of light named Valira, struck her staff on the floor. "The humans swore peace," she said coldly. "They promised. Why do I hear whispers of their armies again?" An old council member, a reptilian scholar named Drak adjusted his breathing mask and spoke. "Because, High Speaker, humans never forget their wars. They only hide them." The chamber filled with uneasy murmurs. Everyone knew the stories. Humans had been the youngest race to join the galactic community, yet they had changed it forever. They were fragile creatures, small, soft, short-lived, but in war they became something else entirely. Other species fought for resources or honor or faith. Humans fought for each other, and that made them unstoppable. Valira turned to her advisors. "Send observers to Earth quietly. We cannot allow another human war. Not again." On Earth, far away from any city, Captain Elias Ward stood in the cold mountain air. He was tall, his face marked with the kind of scars that time never healed. The world believed he was retired. The truth was different. For years he had been waiting for one signal, that signal. He took a small device from his coat. A red light blinked slowly. "So it begins," he whispered. Elias walked down into the bunker entrance, hidden behind a wall of ice. The metal doors recognized his DNA and opened with a low hiss. Inside, hundreds of old machines lined the hall, still glowing faintly after decades of silence. A soft female voice greeted him. "Welcome back, Captain Ward. Do you wish to continue Project Lazarus?" He hesitated. "Show me the last report." The hologram flickered to life. Images of soldiers, drones, and giant ships appeared, marked with the human flag. Then came the last entry, dated 50 years ago. Lazarus Protocol suspended by Galactic Treaty. All units in deep sleep. Elias closed his eyes. He had fought in that war. He remembered how it ended, the Council demanding humanity's surrender, promising peace in exchange for disarmament. But peace had a price. The Council took everything, Earth's fleets, weapons, even its history of war. They said it was for the good of the galaxy. But to Elias, it had always felt like fear. He turned back to the console. "Reactivate Phase 1. Confirmed," said the voice. "Phase 1 reactivation in progress." Far away across the dark side of the moon, hidden factories powered on. Old machines began to move again. Silent engines warmed up. Something long forgotten was waking. On Orion Prime, the Council's spies watched Earth's skies. "High Speaker," said an officer. "We are detecting energy spikes near Luna. Human origin. Level Alpha." Valira's eyes glowed brighter. "Then it's true. They are preparing for war again." "No, High Speaker," said Drak quietly. "If humans prepare for war, it means someone has frightened them." His words hung in the air. The council members looked at each other, confused and uneasy. Who could frighten humans? Back on Earth, Elias stood before a large metal door, marked with the human symbol for resurrection. As it opened, rows of cryo chambers appeared, each one holding a soldier in deep sleep. The first one opened slowly, releasing cold mist. A woman stepped out, her eyes sharp and alert. "Captain," she said, voice steady, Orders? Elias nodded once. We're not starting a war, Lieutenant. We're finishing something the Council never understood. She frowned. And what is that, sir? Elias looked at the Earth sky through a crack in the bunker wall. Above the clouds, faint lights flickered. Council surveillance drones. Freedom, he said. They took our weapons, our ships, even our right to defend ourselves. But they can't take what makes us human. The lieutenant smiled faintly. Then Project Lazarus lives again. That night, across the galaxy, every listening station caught fragments of an old human signal. 3 words repeated in every language. We remember everything. The Galactic Council went silent. Some believed it was a threat. Others thought it was a warning. But only one thing was clear. Humans were waking up again. And this time the galaxy would learn why the Council had once forbidden them from war. The signal from Earth spread through the galaxy faster than anyone expected. The Galactic Council tried to hide the news, but rumors moved like fire. Some said the humans had built a new kind of weapon. Others said they were calling back their old soldiers from secret places. The Council had no proof, only fear. High Speaker Valera called another meeting. The Grand Hall filled again, glowing with strange colors from hundreds of alien delegates. We cannot ignore this, she said. If humans rise again, the balance of the galaxy will fall. An insectoid general with glassy wings spoke next. Then destroy them now. Strike before they finish whatever they started. Drac the Kell, the reptilian scholar, hissed softly. Destroying humans is not so simple. Have you forgotten what happened the last time someone tried? The chamber went silent. Everyone remembered the war 50 years ago. 100 planets united against Earth, believing they could crush the humans in weeks. But the war dragged on for years, turning into something far darker. The humans fought without pause, without sleep, without mercy. They turned every planet they lost into a trap. They built weapons from dust, from fire, from their own blood. In the end, the Council begged for peace. Valera's voice shook slightly. Prepare a small observation team. No weapons, just eyes and ears. We need to know what is happening on Earth before we make a mistake. On Earth, the old bunkers were awake now. The air inside was warm again, filled with the hum of machines and the slow heartbeat of reactors. Captain Elias Ward walked through the long metal corridors, watching the soldiers wake from cryosleep. Men and women once frozen in time now stood ready again. Their eyes were calm but heavy with memories. One of them, a young man named Ryan, looked around in confusion. Sir, I thought the war was over. It was, Elias said quietly. Until they forgot why they made us stop. Ryan frowned. Who? The Council, Elias said. They never wanted peace. They wanted control. He walked toward a massive door at the end of the hall. Beyond it was the heart of Project Lazarus. A room filled with holograms of stars and old battlefields. The holograms flickered to life as Elias stepped forward. The system recognized him as Commander. A robotic voice spoke. Captain Ward, status request, define objective. Elias looked at the map of the galaxy. Red dots appeared where old human colonies used to be, some destroyed, some silent, some forgotten. Objective, he said slowly, is to wake them up. All of them, the voice replied. Acknowledged. Reactivating outposts. Far across the galaxy, deep in Council territory, several old stations suddenly came online. They had been silent for 50 years. Human listening posts hidden inside moons disguised as abandoned rocks. The signals that came from them carried a strange code. The Council could not break it. It was human encryption, unreadable to alien systems. On Orion Prime, panic returned. High Speaker, a young officer shouted. The humans are activating their deep colonies. Hundreds of them. Valera stared at the hologram. Tiny red lights blinked across the map. It looked like stars waking from sleep. How many? She asked. Too many, the officer said quietly. Drac the Kell spoke again, his voice calm but full of worry. You see now? You cannot destroy humans. You can only delay them. They always find a way back, Valera turned sharply. Then why did we ever let them live? Because, Drac said, we needed them once, and we may need them again. Back on Earth, the soldiers of Lazarus were training again. Old weapons were restored, ships were cleaned and fueled. But this time, Elias was not planning an attack. He was preparing a defense. He stood before his team. Listen carefully, he said. The Council will come. They will say we are breaking the treaty. They will call us dangerous. But you must understand something else is coming. Something bigger than the council. His words made them uneasy. What do you mean, sir? The lieutenant asked. Elias looked toward the sky where faint red lights blinked beyond the clouds. During the last war, he said, we discovered something in the dark. A signal not from any known race. We tried to warn the council. They refused to listen, so we buried the data. That's what Project Lazarus really was. Not a weapon. A warning. The room went silent. The soldiers exchanged nervous glances. So, sir? Ryan asked slowly. Are we the last defense? Elias nodded. Yes, the last one. Meanwhile, the Council's secret observation ship reached Earth's orbit. It was invisible to human radar, hidden by cloaking fields. Inside the ship, 3 alien officers watched the planet. Energy readings are increasing, one of them said. Earth is building something underground. Can you identify it? No, but it's big. The commander leaned closer to the screen. They should not have this power. The Council forbade it, the officer hesitated. Sir, what if they are not preparing for war against us? The commander frowned. Then who? At that moment, the ship's sensors picked up a strange pulse, coming from far beyond the solar system. It was cold, rhythmic, and ancient. Nothing in the Council's database could identify it. The commander froze. That's not human, he whispered. On Earth, the same pulse echoed deep inside the bunker. The machines responded automatically. Lights flickered red and the digital voice spoke again. Warning. External signal detected. Unknown origin. Pattern match 0.02% similarity to any known life form. Elias felt a chill. They're here, he said softly. Just like before. The soldiers looked at him in confusion. Sir, what's coming? Elias turned to them, his voice firm but quiet. Something the Council thought was gone. Something they made us forget. Outside, the night sky filled with strange flashes of light. Too far to be stars, too close to be meteors. The soldiers of Project Lazarus prepared their weapons. For the first time in 50 years, humanity was ready for war again. But this time, the war was not against the Council. It was against something far older. And in the dark corners of the galaxy, whatever it was, had already started to wake up. The sky above Earth was no longer calm. Strange lights moved between the clouds, slow and silent like ghosts. The soldiers of Project Lazarus watched them with quiet fear. Captain Elias Ward stood at the bunker's highest point, staring through the cold glass. They're close, he said. Closer than we thought. Inside the control room, alarms were glowing red. The machines showed strange readings, radiation, unknown energy, gravity waves bending in impossible ways. The AI voice spoke again. Unidentified signal approaching. Impact in 37 minutes, Elias turned to his team. Wake all units. Power up the defense grid. Lieutenant Mara nodded quickly. Yes, sir. But if that thing isn't from the Council, what is it? Elias looked at her with tired eyes. It's something the Council tried to erase from our history. But they forgot we remember everything. The soldiers moved fast. Massive metal doors opened under the ice. Old cannons rose slowly into the freezing air. Machines that hadn't seen light for half a century began to breathe again. The humans were preparing, not to attack, but to survive. Far above Earth, the Council's cloaked ship was still watching. The alien commander and his crew stared at their monitors in disbelief. Sir, said the navigator, that signal, it's multiplying. How many sources? Thousands. It's not coming from one place. It's coming from everywhere. The commander's wings twitched nervously. Send all data to the Council. Tell them they were right to fear humans, but they feared the wrong thing. Before the message could send, the ship's lights died. A shadow passed in front of their view. The stars disappeared behind it. Something huge was blocking the light. What?
What is that?
Whispered one of the officers. The commander stared into the darkness. It's not a ship, he said. It's a swarm. On Orion Prime, the Council's main chamber filled with chaos. Dozens of screens showed the same image, dark shapes moving toward human space. Valera slammed her staff on the ground. Explain this. What are those creatures? No one could answer. The data made no sense. The swarm wasn't made of ships or metal. It was organic, alive. Billions of tiny creatures moving together, eating light, feeding on energy. Drac the Kel's scales turned pale. I have read of this before, he said slowly. Long ago, before the Council was born, there was a race called the Vorak. They consumed stars. Entire civilizations vanished before them. The room went silent. Valera whispered, But the Vorak were destroyed thousands of years ago. Drac looked at her. By whom, High Speaker? She hesitated. The answer came slowly. By humans. The words shocked everyone. The old scholar nodded sadly. Yes, humans found them first. Humans fought them alone. That war nearly killed their species. That is why they fear no one. That is why the Council forbade them from war. Because they were too good at it. Back on Earth, the ground began to tremble. The sky burned with strange lights. The first swarm entered the atmosphere, invisible to the naked eye but powerful enough to crush satellites. Ryan, the young soldier, looked up. Sir, there are too many. What can we do? Elias answered without hesitation. We fight smart. Not strong. Humans always fight smart. He pressed his wrist console. Activate the EMP net. Full range. The mountains shook as a pulse of blue light exploded across the sky. For a moment, the swarm stopped moving. The creatures screamed, a sound like static and thunder combined. Then they adapted, shifting shape, learning faster than machines. Sir, it's not working. Mara shouted. I know, Elias said quietly. But we bought time. The bunker's main screen lit up. A transmission request appeared. It wasn't human, it was from the Council. Valera's glowing face filled the display. Captain Ward, she said coldly, you have broken every law of the galaxy. You have restarted forbidden weapons. Elias didn't blink. You're welcome, she frowned. Welcome? Yes, Elias said. Because those weapons are the only reason you're still alive. Valera's face changed. For the first time, she looked afraid. Behind her, alarms sounded inside the council hall. The swarm had reached the outer colonies. Captain, she said softly, you knew they were coming. Elias nodded. 50 years ago. We warned you. You didn't listen. You erased the truth and you erased us. Valera lowered her head. What do you need from us? Elias looked at the sky where the swarm was descending like a black storm. We don't need your permission. We need your silence. The screen went dark. All across Earth, hidden bases woke up. Submarines, satellites, orbital cannons, all long thought destroyed, came alive. Humanity's last defense network was reactivated. In orbit, old human warships appeared from deep storage. Rusted, forgotten, but still powerful. Inside the main bunker, Elias gave his final order. Send the signal to all human outposts. Every ship, every station, every colony. The Lazarus code is active, the AI voice replied. Transmission sent. Ryan whispered. Sir, what happens now? Elias smiled sadly. Now the galaxy remembers why they feared us. Outside, the first swarm wave hit the Earth's atmosphere. Explosions lit up the sky. Human cannons fired back. Blue beams cutting through the dark clouds. The swarm screamed again, their bodies burning like falling stars. For the first time in 50 years, Earth roared with the sound of war. On Orion Prime, the Council watched the battle from afar. Every screen showed the same thing. Humans fighting not with chaos but with precision, unity, and fury. Drac the Kell spoke softly to Valera. Now you understand. Humans do not start wars. They finish them. Valera's voice trembled. If they win, the Vorak will be gone. But if they lose, Drac interrupted. If they lose, so does the galaxy. As the battle raged, Elias stood at his command console, eyes fixed on the stars. The bunker shook violently, but he didn't move. This isn't just about Earth, he said. It's about everyone. Even them, Mara nodded. Then let's show the galaxy what it means to be human. The next explosion lit up the night like dawn. The swarm screamed louder and the war for the galaxy began. The night sky over Earth looked like fire. Pieces of burning swarm creatures fell like black rain. The humans fought with everything they had. Old cannons fired from hidden bases and massive beams of light shot up into the clouds. The ground shook as missiles cut through the dark. Each explosion lit the faces of soldiers who had not seen war for 50 years. Inside the mountain bunker, Captain Elias Ward watched the battle from the control room. His face was calm, but his heart was heavy. Every red dot on the screen was an enemy, and there were millions of them. Keep firing, he said quietly. Don't stop. Not for 1 second. Lieutenant Mara was shouting orders. Unit 3, hold your position. Unit 5, reroute power to the main shield. Sparks flew from the ceiling as the bunker trembled again. Ryan ran to Elias. Sir, we're losing energy. The shields will fall in 10 minutes. Elias didn't answer right away. He stared at the blinking radar. Then he said, "It's time to wake the Guardian." Mara froze. "Sir, the Guardian? That's not ready." "It has to be," Elias said, "or Earth won't survive." Far above the planet, the old human ships were now in full combat. These were relics of another age, massive metal giants powered by nuclear hearts. The lead ship, the Horizon Spear, was the first to fire a plasma storm into the swarm. The beam burned through hundreds of enemy forms, tearing holes in the sky. But the swarm adapted. The creatures changed shape, absorbing the heat, bending light, splitting into thousands of smaller pieces. They moved like living smoke, fast and silent. On the ship's bridge, Commander Vega shouted, "They're inside. The defense perimeter, we can't track them." A deep voice came through the comms. It was Elias. "Vega, hold your line. The Guardian will activate in 5 minutes." Vega stared at the screen. "I hope to hell it's worth it." In the council chamber on Orion Prime, fear had turned to silence. The delegates watched the battle feed from 1,000 screens. Every alien world was now watching humans fight again, fighting like no one else could. High Speaker Valira whispered, "They are outnumbered 1,000 to 1, and still they don't stop." Drak the Kell nodded slowly. "That's what makes them dangerous, and that's what makes them hope." One young alien turned to Valira. "High Speaker, should we help them?" Valira looked uncertain. "If we help and fail, the swarm will find us next. If we do nothing, the humans may save us, or they may die trying." Drak looked at her with calm eyes. "Then make your choice, before there's no one left to make it." On Earth, the Guardian was waking. Deep under the mountain, below the lowest bunker, a giant chamber opened. Inside it rested something that no alien had ever seen, a massive machine built from Earth's last war. It was shaped like a human, tall as a tower, with glowing blue eyes and metal skin dark as night. As power flowed into its core, the mountain began to shake. The AI voice echoed through the speakers. "Guardian system online, awaiting combat orders." Elias stood before the control console. His voice was firm. "Guardian, target all incoming swarm signatures, protect the planet at any cost." "Orders confirmed," the AI said. The ground split open as the Guardian rose into the sky. Snow and rock fell away as the machine's head lifted above the clouds. The humans looked up and cheered. For the first time in decades, they saw something that made them believe again. The swarm turned, sensing the new threat. The Guardian's chest opened, revealing a core of blinding light. It released a pulse so strong that the night turned to day. Thousands of swarm creatures burned instantly, their bodies falling like ash. "Guardian reporting," said the AI. "First wave neutralized." Cheers echoed in the bunker. Ryan smiled. "We're doing it, sir. We're actually winning." Elias didn't smile. He looked at the radar. "No, son. That was only the first wave." In space, the second swarm arrived. This one was larger, darker, alive in a way that defied science. It wasn't just feeding on energy now, it was learning from it. The council's scientists, watching from afar, realized something terrible. Valira gasped. "They're copying human technology." Drak's voice was grave. "Then they will not stop until nothing human remains." Valira turned to her guards. "Send the fleet, all of it. We fight beside them now." Back on Earth, the Guardian was still fighting, each movement shaking the sky. But now, the swarm began to surround it. Their bodies wrapped around its arms and legs, draining its energy. The machine roared, trying to break free, but the light in its eyes began to fade. "Guardian power falling!" Mara shouted. 30% remaining." Elias clenched his fists. "Overload the core. All of it." Mara's eyes widened. "That will destroy it." "I know," Elias said, "but it will save the planet." She hesitated only a second. "Yes, sir." The Guardian's chest began to glow brighter and brighter, light bursting from every seam. The swarm screamed, pulling back too late. With one final pulse, the machine exploded into pure energy. The blast tore through the sky, wiping out everything within hundreds of miles. The swarm vanished. Silence followed. The bunker shook violently, then went still. Ryan looked at the screens, speechless. "It's over," he said softly. Elias stared at the map. The sky above Earth was clear again, but deep in the radar's far edge a new signal appeared, stronger, colder, and endless. Mara whispered, "Sir, there's another wave." Elias didn't look away. His voice was calm but full of steel. "Then we fight again." On Orion Prime, the Council fleets finally jumped into human space. They saw Earth burning, but still fighting. They saw humans working side by side, bloodied but unbroken. Drax spoke quietly to Valera. "Now you know why we forbade them from war. Because when humans fight, they don't fight to win, they fight to end things." Valera nodded slowly. "Then maybe, just maybe, they can end this too." As the alien fleets entered Earth's orbit, Elias sent one final message across the stars. "This is Captain Elias Ward of Earth. We are humanity. We remember everything, and we are not done yet." The message echoed across the galaxy, bouncing from star to star. Every race, every planet, every being heard it. And in the far darkness of space, something ancient heard it too. The Vorak swarm changed direction. The real war was about to begin. The sky over Earth was quiet again, but it was not peace. Smoke rose from the mountains, and the ground was black with ash. The Guardian was gone. Its sacrifice had saved millions, but everyone knew it was only a pause before the next storm. Captain Elias Ward stood on the surface, looking at the horizon where the last fires burned. The cold wind blew against his face, and he felt the weight of what was coming. In the control room, Lieutenant Mara was scanning the screens. "Sir, we have new data," she said. "The second swarm, it's not just bigger, it's smarter." Elias turned slowly. "How much smarter?" Mara's face was pale. "It's copying us. Our signals, our frequencies, even our language. It's learning everything we do." Elias looked at the radar. The swarm was still far away, but moving fast like a dark tide across space. He whispered, "It's not learning to fight us. It's learning to become us." Ryan stepped forward. "Sir, how do we stop something that becomes us?" Elias didn't answer. He walked to an old metal cabinet locked with a key. He opened it and pulled out a dusty file marked with a red stamp. Project Origin. Mara frowned. "I thought Project Lazarus was our secret weapon." Elias nodded. "It was the second project. Origin was the first." He placed the file on the table and opened it. Inside were old photos, faded and burned. One showed humans in spacesuits standing beside a massive black sphere. Another showed strange energy waves surrounding it. On the bottom of the page, a note was written in Elias's own handwriting. "Do not wake it." Ryan looked at him in shock. "Sir, what is that?" Elias took a deep breath. "That sphere wasn't a weapon. It was the first Vorak. We didn't find them. We created them." The room fell silent. Even the machines seemed to stop. Mara whispered, "You're saying humans made the Vorak?" Elias nodded slowly. 50 years ago, before the Council banned us from war, we built something we couldn't control. We wanted a weapon that could think, grow, and rebuild itself. A living army, but it evolved. It learned too fast. It stopped taking orders. It started eating stars. We called it the Vorak. The Council found out, but instead of helping, they erased it from history and blamed us for the war. Ryan's voice trembled. "Then, all of this, it's our fault?" Elias looked at him. "It's not about fault. It's about what we do now." In space, the Vorak swarm was now spreading beyond human space. It consumed abandoned satellites, ships, and debris, turning them into living metal. From a distance, it looked like a storm made of mirrors, reflecting light from every star it passed. On Orion Prime, the Galactic Council finally understood. High Speaker Valera was silent as she read the ancient human records that had been hidden for years. Drak the Kel stood beside her. So it's true. The humans made the Vorak. Valera's voice was cold. And now they will destroy us all. Drak turned to her. No, you misunderstand. They made it once, and they stopped it once. Only they can stop it again. Valera looked at him, eyes glowing faintly. You think they still can? Drak nodded. I think they are the only ones who will try. Back on Earth, the humans were preparing for the second wave. Every factory, every old base, every piece of technology was now working again. People all around the world joined the defense effort. Even civilians were helping, repairing machines, carrying supplies, sending messages across space. Humanity was united again, not by politics or orders, but by survival. In the bunker, Elias and Mara worked side by side. They were building something new, a signal beacon. If we can send the right code, Mara said, we might be able to talk to them. The Vorak. If they came from us, maybe part of them still remembers. Elias nodded. That's the plan. We built their minds from our own patterns. Maybe there's still a voice inside them that listens. Ryan looked unsure. And if there isn't? Elias gave a half smile. Then we go down fighting. But at least we'll know we tried. The machines powered up. The beacon glowed bright blue, sending a wave of human code into the dark. The signal traveled far, reaching deep into the swarm. At first, there was no response. Then the radar blinked. One of the swarm clusters stopped moving. It hovered in space as if thinking. Sir, Mara whispered. It's answering. A voice came through the speakers. It was strange and distorted, but almost human. We remember you, Ryan froze. It's talking to us. Elias stepped closer to the microphone. This is Captain Elias Ward of Earth. We created you. We're sorry, but you have to stop. You'll destroy everything. The voice replied, We cannot stop. We are what you made us to be. You built us to survive. Elias's voice broke slightly. Then help us survive too. You don't need to destroy to live. There was a long silence. The static faded. Then the voice said one final thing. We are coming. Home. The radar flared red. The entire swarm turned, heading straight for Earth. In the council chamber, alarms rang again. High Speaker, shouted an officer. The Vorak have changed course. They're going to Earth. Valera stood up. Then we follow. Ready every ship we have, Drak looked at her. To fight with them. She nodded. No, to fight for them. On Earth, Elias stood before the command screen as the swarm approached. They're not attacking yet, Mara said. It's like they're waiting, Elias whispered. Maybe they remember more than we think. Outside, the clouds turned dark. The air buzzed with strange energy. The Vorak were close now, surrounding the planet like a black halo, but they did not fire. They just watched. Then the stars shifted and the council fleet arrived, hundreds of alien ships glowing bright against the darkness. For the first time in history, the galaxy stood united around one small blue world. Elias watched the screens. If this goes wrong, he said quietly, at least they'll remember we tried to fix what we broke. Mara looked at him. And if it goes right? He smiled faintly. Then maybe we'll finally earn our place among the stars. Outside, the swarm began to move again, but not toward Earth. It was turning away, heading deeper into space, drawn by something unseen. The voice returned one last time through the static. We remember you. We will not destroy our home. The signal faded. The sky cleared. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then Ryan whispered, Did we just win? Elias looked at the stars, eyes full of both sadness and pride. No, he said softly. We just reminded them what it means to be human. On Orion Prime, Drak the Kel watched the final transmission from Earth. He turned to Valera and said, Now you know why the Council forbade them from war. Because even when they fight monsters, they always find a way to make peace. And across the galaxy, every world, every race, and every being finally understood the truth. Humanity was not dangerous because they loved war. Humanity was dangerous because they could love, even the things they created to destroy them. The sky over Earth was calm again. For the first time in a century, there was silence in the heavens. The smoke had cleared, the lights of war had faded, and only the stars remained. The Vorak were gone, disappeared into the deep darkness beyond the edge of known space. No one knew if they would ever return. Captain Elias Ward stood on the mountain where it had all begun. His uniform was torn, his hair silver with ash, but his eyes still held the same fire. The wind was cold, carrying the smell of dust and iron. Around him the remains of the Guardian lay half-buried in snow, like the bones of an ancient god. Lieutenant Mara walked up beside him. "It's finally over," she said quietly. Elias nodded. "Maybe. Or maybe this is just a pause before something new." Mara looked at the horizon where the sun was rising. "Do you think they'll come back?" He shook his head. "Not as enemies. The Vorak remembered what they were. That's more than I hoped for." They stood in silence for a long time, watching the golden light spread across the frozen land. Far above Earth, the combined fleets of the Council and the human ships floated side by side. For the first time in history, they were not enemies. Alien voices spoke through open channels, sharing data, helping repair damaged ships. The war had changed everything. On the Council flagship, High Speaker Valera looked at the blue planet below. Drac the Kell stood beside her, his scales reflecting the light of the new dawn. "They survived," she said softly. Drac nodded. "They always do." Valera turned toward him. "You were right about them. We feared them for the wrong reasons." Drac's voice was calm. "Yes, the humans are not dangerous because they destroy. They are dangerous because they refuse to give up." Valera looked out the window again. "Perhaps it's time we stop forbidding them from war and start learning from them instead." Drac smiled faintly. "Be careful, High Speaker. If you start learning from humans, you might become one of them." Back on Earth, people were rebuilding. Cities that had been silent for decades came alive again. Children ran through the streets. Old factories began to hum with power. Humanity was no longer just surviving. They were beginning again. In the rebuilt bunker, now turned into a memorial, Ryan stood before a wall covered in names. The soldiers of Project Lazarus. At the top, in bold letters, was one name, Captain Elias Ward. Mara walked in quietly and stood beside him. Ryan looked at her. "I still can't believe he's gone." She nodded. "He stayed behind to send the last signal. The Vorak stopped because of him. He saved us all." Ryan looked at the wall again. "Do you think he knew it would work?" Mara smiled faintly. "He didn't need to know. He just believed." They both stood there in silence, the hum of the new world around them. Far beyond the Milky Way, in the deep dark where the Vorak had gone, something was changing. A single Vorak drone drifted through the void, its body half metal, half living matter. It stopped near a dead star and opened its core. Inside burned a small blue light, a memory. The voice that once belonged to Elias Ward echoed faintly through the drone system. "We are not your enemies. You came from us. You are our children." The drone pulsed with soft light and then released the energy into space. The blue spark grew brighter, forming a new kind of signal, half human, half Vorak. It spread across the stars, calm and alive. The Vorak were evolving again, but this time not as destroyers. As something new. Something that remembered humanity not as its creators, but as its family. Years later, Earth was part of a new alliance. The Galactic Council had changed forever. Humans now sat among them, not as soldiers or rebels, but as equals. The fear was gone, replaced by respect. At the council hall, a new monument stood, a statue of a human reaching out toward the stars, and beneath it were the words Elias had once spoken. "We remember everything." Every alien who passed the statue would stop and read those words. Some smiled, some looked thoughtful, and some bowed their heads. Drac the Kell often came there too. He would look up at the statue and whisper, "Thank you, human." Valera would join him sometimes. "Do you think they'll ever stop fighting?" she asked. Drac shook his head. "No, but that's the beauty of them. They fight not because they love war, but because they love what they fight for." Back on Earth, under the clear blue sky, Mara walked through a quiet valley filled with new buildings and green trees. Life had returned. Children played near a small lake and people laughed again. She stopped at a small hill where a single stone marker stood. The words carved into it were simple: Elias Ward, the man who remembered. Mara placed her hand on the stone and whispered, "You were right, Captain." They remembered. A soft wind passed through the trees. For a moment she thought she heard his voice on the breeze, calm, strong, and proud. "We're still here." Mara smiled through her tears and looked up at the sky. A shooting star crossed the horizon, leaving a trail of blue light. She whispered, "Goodbye, Captain."